for vehicle?
Sure. With any development into uncharted territory, it is difficult to predict these things with precision. But I do think things are going to move very fast. So my plan is in basically 1 to 2 months to do the 20 kilometer or 65 foot flight with Starship Mark 1. Our next flight after that might actually just be all the way to orbit with the booster and the ship. I'm giving you just literally stream of consciousness here. Most likely we would fly to orbit with Mark 1, but we would fly to orbit with Mark 3, which we built after Mark 1 right here. In fact, we'll start building it in about a month. So, yeah. And actually, so sorry to say this weird question, but I did want to make sure to thank Yusaku Mizawa for his great support. Yeah, he's awesome. Yusak 2020, that's his handle. That's a great handle. Anyway, he's a super cool dude, and he's like, you know, putting a lot of serious resources to helping out Starship, so I want to thank him very much for that. Anyway, so, yeah. Just to frame things, we are going to be building ships and boosters at both Boca and the Cape as fast as we can. And each successive, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be really nutty to see a bunch of these things. Not just one, but a whole stack of them. And we're improving both the design and the manufacturing method exponentially. So, for example, with the current way that we built the way that Mark 1 and Mark 2 cylindrical sections were built was in with basically plates. So a series of plates to create each cylinder section. With Mark 3 and beyond, we will literally take the coil of steel from the mill, unspool it, change the curvature to a 9-meter diameter, and do a single seam weld. And it would also be thinner, which makes it lighter and cheaper. So the rate at which we will be building ships is going to be quite crazy by space standards. I think we'll probably have Mark 2 built within a couple of months or less, and Mark 3 maybe 3 months, that type of thing. Mark 4 4 months, maybe 5 months. And we would seek to go to orbit with probably Mark 4 or Mark 5. So we would, I mean, this is going to sound totally nuts, but I think we want to try to reach orbit in less than 6 months. Provided the rate of design improvement and manufacturing improvement continues to be exponential, I think that is, you know, accurate to within a few months.
Hi Elon, my name is Steve Clark. I'm with the Brownsville Herald. Back in September 2014 at the groundbreaking, you said that the first crewed interplanetary mission could possibly leave.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Could possibly leave for Boca Chica. Do you think that's still the case?
Yes, that is, I think, definitely possible that the first crewed mission on Starship could leave from Boca. We actually are internally competing the Cape and Boca. So I think both places will, to the best of my knowledge, both places will launch crewed missions. So I think it is extremely likely that we will launch crewed missions from Boca, and there is at least a 50% chance that it is the first mission. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hey Elon, the
How are you?
That was good, good. Yeah. You have great questions online.
Thanks, you have great answers.
Yeah, welcome.
So, that belly flop to tail down maneuver, I mean, that's something to see. Is that first one, this one right here, you know, 20 kilometers, is it going to come in that hot and do that flip that fast right here, or is it going to be out on the drum ship? Like,
no, it's basically right where Hopper took off. That's basically where it's going to take off. You know, within, very close to where it's just right over there. You know, so yeah, that maneuver that you saw, it will execute now. When we get to, I think maybe Mark 3, certainly Mark 4, I think probably that will be a good time to transition to hot gas thrusters from cold gas thrusters. So using essentially compressed nitrogen gas as the cold gas thruster is a pretty low ISP, you know, sort of 60, 70 if you're very lucky, but very closer to 60. With methox thruster, you can get, without really even trying hard, 300 ISP. Even if you just foam cool the walls without even regen cooling. If you regen cool it, 350, no problem. 360 even. So you're talking about something that's then 5 or 6 times the mass efficiency of the nitrogen thrusters that are in Mach 1. And if you have thrusters of that efficiency, then we don't need to use the Raptors to correct the horizontal velocity. Because right now it's actually, when the Raptors fire, the Raptors kick it over, but they're actually accelerating the vehicle in the wrong direction. Then they have to overcorrect and then come back. Whereas if you have strong enough thrusters, you can just, using the onboard maneuvering thrusters without lighting the main engines, you can just go kick it hard, light the engine, land. That'd be, you know, that's better. Yeah.
And then are those pressure fed then, those?
Yeah, those would be just pressure fed, high pressure gas methox. So you have a high pressure, you know, CH4 bottle, high pressure O2 bottle. And then the great thing is like those they don't care what attitude you're at. You can be at any attitude, any G's, any attitude, it'll still fire. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi Elon, I'm Tim Fernholz from Forbes. Thanks so much for taking the time. Two questions, if I may. One, just technical, following up on the presentation. Do you use stuff in orbit to boost as well as the Starship, right?
Yes. Starship cannot get to Earth orbit without the booster. But anywhere except Earth, pretty much. Well, not counting Venus, but like the Mars or the Moon, the ship, provided you have a propellant plant on Mars or Moon, the ship can easily get a single stage from the surface of the Moon all the way to the surface of Earth without a booster. So that shows you how deep, like Earth has a deep gravity well and a thick atmosphere. But definitely cannot, I mean, if we really went crazy lights, you could probably do single stage to orbit non-reusable with the ship. But that would be pointless.
Elon, I just wanted to ask, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine had a tweet last night about this presentation. He's concerned about enthusiasm for SpaceX's various programs. I'm just curious if you have any comment or response to that.
Yeah, I mean, we, for sure, from a SpaceX resource standpoint, our resources are overwhelmingly on Falcon and Dragon. That is to be clear. It was really quite a small percentage of SpaceX that did this Starship. You know, less than 5% of the company, basically. The really hard part that requires a lot of resources is optimizing something past the initial prototype phase and bringing it into volume production. So yeah, to be clear, like the vast majority of our resources are on Dragon and Falcon, especially Crew Dragon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey Elon, Chris Gebhardt with NASA Spaceflight. How do you guys envision keeping the methane and oxygen inside the tanks from boiling off in a significant quantity during a multi-month interplanetary trip to Mars? And on a more Earth-grounded question, what's your contamination mitigation strategy since these things are being built outside in the elements and not in the factory?
Well, these are pretty far in the distance questions. These questions are relevant, but in the future years. Keeping the landing propellant cold on the way to Mars is a lot easier than it may seem, because you can essentially vacuum, just like you'd keep cryogenic propellant stored on Earth for long periods of time. You vacuum jacket it. We would essentially have header tanks that are bigger than these header tanks, and vent them to vacuum. So you would just basically have a tank inside a tank with multi-layer insulation, and this way you can keep things cryogenic for months, no problem. It requires very little energy to. You don't even really need to worry about boil off. You could apply some energy to cryo cool it, but you don't really need to. So you'd have a tiny amount of boil off. In vacuum, things are kind of weird. They're not like on Earth because you have no convective cooling, really, in zero G. So you actually have the sun side of your rocket is very hot, and the not sun side of your rocket is at 3 degrees Kelvin. So it's super cold. So you just like keep your cold stuff on the cold side and the hot stuff on the hot side, and it's not a problem to manage. For the long-term stuff, for sort of what's called contamination Mars, I think this concern. First of all, we'll do everything we can to mitigate it, obviously. But at the end of the day, if you're going to send people to Mars, well, that's a pretty big contaminant, But I really don't think that some Earth-based bacterium is going to be able to migrate much through Mars. The thing that makes Mars very difficult is that it is both cold and has high ultraviolet. So if it was either cold or ultraviolet, you could evolve to deal with it. But the cold slows down the metabolic processes, and then ultraviolet shreds the DNA. So you're cold or shredded. This is very difficult for things to exist on the surface of Mars, and that's why we've not found any traces of life on the surface of Mars to date. If there is any life, it'll be very deep underground, and I think very resilient. Yeah, thank you. It's also worth noting that over time, there have been meteors, there have been chunks of Earth that have been chipped off by meteors, and chunks of Mars that have been chipped off from Mars, and Earth and Mars have actually exchanged material many times over the last several hundred years.
Hey, Elon, it's Chris Davenport from the Washington Post. Curious about your vision for this area. I mean, when you drive by and you see this, it's surreal.
This is surreal.
Yeah, but I know your vision isn't maybe like a government launch site, like a Cape. Is this a private, operational, commercial spaceport?
Yeah, I mean, it will definitely get fancier than it currently is. Because the reason it's not fancier is just because it would have taken too long to build the buildings. So since it was going to take so long to build the buildings, we just built it outside. This is like my new thing. It's like management by ramming. If the schedule's long, it's wrong, and if it's tight, it's right. It works. SR-71, fastest plane in history ever. It's also the coolest plane ever. It had no anti-missile defenses except one: accelerate. Zero. They try to shoot it down many times. 0 successes.
Can you just give us a quick sense of what this area will look like in, say, 10 years with our flying crews?
Oh, I think it'll be like a lot more buildings and a lot more stuff. Like way more stuff than is currently here. As you can tell, the wind is really vigorous. One of the things that I think would be quite important to have locally is production. So trucking massive, thousands of tons of liquid oxygen to this site doesn't make a ton of sense. We should really produce the liquid oxygen here. And by the way, we have gas exhaustion in the atmosphere, so we basically just need electricity. I forgot to mention one of the things over time is, for the propellant production on Mars will be completely renewable because we will use solar panels the CO2 out of the atmosphere. Mars is a permanent CO2 atmosphere. Get the H2O, the water, from the ice. Mars has a massive amount of ice. You combine H2O and CO2, and you get CH4 and O2. This is a very long understood process of run it over a ruthenium catalyst. This is a Sabatier process to create CH4 and O2 out of CO2 and H2O. And that same system that we developed for Mars will long-term be used on Earth. So long-term, this is like, long-term we will produce the propellant for the rockets using solar power. And pull the CO2 from Earth's atmosphere, use water, combine it, and to create CH4 and O2 on Earth. And so the long-term outcome will be quite sustainable and renewable for Earth and Mars.
Jeff Faust of Space News. You spent a lot of time this summer working with the FAA getting approval to do a single Starhopper flight to 150 meters. Now you're talking about flying a much bigger vehicle to much higher altitudes and ultimately flying to orbit. Where are you in the FAA in terms of getting approval for that? And will those flight opportunities be able to coexist with, say, the local residents around here?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the FAA administrator for space has been excellent to work with. Very forward-leaning. Really, I would just like to say thanks to the FAA for their support, actually. I mean, really, there's, minimal delays related to regulatory activity, and they've been really very reasonable. So, this was appreciated. So, I think the FAA asks good questions, and wants to make sure things are safe, as do we. And so we're going to make sure that the risk of the public is extremely, vanishingly small, almost nothing, basically. It's the same sort of thing that we've had that we deal with on Falcon 9 and Dragon, and has gone very well, for the 17 years that SpaceX has been around. So I think I feel pretty optimistic about things. I don't see any fundamental obstacles. We are working with the residents of Boca Chica village because we think over time it's going to be disruptive to living in Boca Chica village because it ended up needing to get included for safety a lot of times. So I'd say probably not very, there would be just not very comforting to the Boca Chica village. I mean, I think the actual danger to Boca Chica village is low, but it's not tiny. So therefore, we want super tiny risk. So probably over time, better to buy out the villages, and we've made an offer to that effect. Yeah.
Thank you, Evelyn. It's Tarek Malik from Space.com, and I was curious with the design update here, if 100-person cruise base flights is still kind of the target now, and how the life support.
Sorry, can you talk about that? The wind is like howling in my ear, unfortunately.
Sure. Yes, with the design update here, I'm curious if the 100-person crew size target is still the main target for base crew flights, and how the life support system for that is being developed for both the initial test flights and then maybe for Mr. Miyazawa's flight too in the upcoming years. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really, I think you could still do 100 people. Like the pressurized volume on Starship is around 1,000 cubic meters. So if you had 100 people, you have 10 cubic meters per person, which is, and especially in like a 0G situation, that's actually quite a lot of room. Unlike a 1G situation, you only get to use one surface, really, live on one surface in a 1G situation, but in a 0G situation, you can live on 6 surfaces. You can like all 6 sides of a cube. So things are way roomier than we seem. And by the way, 1,000 cubic meters I think is close to what the space station pressurized volume is. So Starship is like basically like a space station pressurized volume on every flight. It's quite a lot.
see the Starship prototype here, Mark 1. You talked a little bit about how you're going to build this heavy vehicle. Can you give us a little bit more detail about how that development is going, where exactly it'll be built, and when we might see it on a test stand or a pad?
Sure, yeah, good question. So the priority is to build at least 2 Starships at each site, at Boca and the Cape, and then start building the booster. So we'll complete Mach 1 through 4 before doing Mach 1 of the booster, and then we'll do Mach 1 and Mach 2 of the boosters at the Cape and Boca. The main constraint on launching the booster is engines. Because obviously the booster has a lot of engines. So spooling up the Raptor production rate is extremely important to, vital, obviously, essential to completing the booster. Doing the tanks and the legs and so the bird fins is not a constraint. Like that we can get done fast. We'd want to have at least probably 24 engines, but I think really at least 31 engines to launch. So you add that up, you've got a lot of engines there. We need 4 Starships. We need these just have 3. Mach 1 and 2 just have three Raptor engines. Mach 3 and 4 will have 6. So yeah, this is like a lot of engines basically, including development engines. From now through orbit, we probably need 100 Raptor engines. And our production rate right now is maybe one every sort of 8 to 10 days. And it should be one every couple of days in a few months. And then our target is to get to a Raptor engine every day by Q1 next year, or sooner.
And if I may, when will we see people flying on this vehicle in space?
Well, I think we could potentially see people fly next year. If we get to orbit in about 6 months, then and we have it's designed to be a reusable rocket, so a reusable ship. So we can do many flights to prove out the reliability very quickly. So whereas with an expendable vehicle, you have to build. If you want to do 10 flights, let's say, to prove out the reliability of an expendable vehicle, you need to build and destroy 10 vehicles. Whereas we can do 10 flights, within basically 10 days. So when I say rapid reusability, I mean, you can fly the booster 20 times a day. You fly the ship 3 or 4 times a day. That's what I mean by reusability. And the only reason the ship takes more time than that, takes more time than the booster, is that you need a couple of, you need 3 or 4 orbits to synchronize for the ship so that it is I don't want to get into this complicated thing of orbital dynamics and the rotation of the Earth relative to satellite. But as anyone who's knows space, the track of a satellite, unless it's an equatorial satellite, is a sinusoidal track on the Earth. Unless it's equatorial or sun synchronous. So. Launching sort of due east, you have to kind of wait for the orbits, the ground path to sync up with the launch site, and that's the only reason